Homeless woman draws attention of a construction worker to a suspicious car and exposes the unpredictable. But before we start, please give the video a like and make sure to subscribe to Wonderbot and hit the bell so you'll never miss any uploads from us. At least once in each one of our lives comes a moment that's impactful enough to change our whole view about ourselves. We think we know ourselves, but at that moment we act unexpectedly and end up knowing our true selves. For Colin Blevin, the morning of July 17th was the moment. And at this moment, either he would become a hero or a zero, and not for the world, but in his own eyes. After all, what the world thinks of us matter, but at the end of the day, what we think of ourselves matters the most. When a construction worker rushes towards a suspicious car that was blocking his way, he understood the seriousness of that moment. He had to take action, and so he grabbed what lied inside and called 911. This incident became an eye-opener for everyone who heard it. To make it more clear, we have to take you back to the beginning of this story. Colin Blevin, a 45-year-old construction worker who resides in San Jose, California. His heavy build and sweet smile both add to his charming personality of being a great father, a loving husband, and a hardworking man. Colin usually goes to work at 7 in the morning, but that Monday morning was different from the very beginning. Like every other day, Colin was supposed to leave for his worksite early morning and on the way drop his daughter off at school. Daughters see a superhero in their fathers, and it was the little one's innocent request that her dad should be the one dropping her to school daily. Colin should have never denied his angel's innocent wish. Sadly, that morning, Colin's wife was the one who'd be dropping the girl off. Wondering why? Although Colin's girl was disappointed knowing her dad would not take her to school that day, her dad explained to her what's the reason behind it. Finally, the girl agreed when Colin promised to take her out later that day. Her smile brought relief to Colin. After all, a daughter's smile is all fathers pray for. Colin's daughter hugged her dad and said bye as she was being driven to school by her mother. Colin was suffering from a severe backache since last Friday. He felt like it was a minor sprain that will go away by the weekend. Even after taking rest the whole weekend, his back still hurt, and he was thinking to take the day off from work that Monday. The big man was destined to go to work that day, and he would realize it soon enough. Despite his back pain, Colin was willing to show up to work that day. Yes, he was a bit late than usual, but he respected his work. When he reached at the workplace that morning, he was going to encounter something exceptionally strange, and his actions will decide the fate of innocent life. Sometimes we ask ourselves why things are happening the way they should not be happening, ideally until all the pieces fall together. As Colin recalled that fateful day, he said, "My hip was hurting really bad. I needed to get work done. If by any chance he would have stayed home, one whole family would have been destroyed." While Colin was trying to clock in for his work that morning, there was an obstacle on the way, and this obstacle was annoying for Colin. He was already running late, and there was a car blocking his way at the entry point of the construction firm. Usually everyone's inside by the firm by that time, and this car doesn't even look familiar to him. It was then that he took a closer view inside the car. He understood that something wasn't right. As it seemed, the man inside the car was talking to himself. Colin recalled the man appeared to be under the influence of drugs. This person was not even a worker at the construction firm. In that case, the question was, what was he even doing on the way? Colin wasn't at all in the mood of messing with this man, as he was already running late. He asked the man, who was not at all paying attention. Colin got out of his vehicle and walked towards this man's car, a 1992 white Honda Accord. He just wanted to tell this person to move his car when he noticed the strangest thing of all. So the scene became a bit unusual. While Colin didn't want any trouble, the other man was looking for trouble. He was speaking in a rude tone and was not ready to understand a simple, valid thing. It looked to Colin like this person was not at all in his senses, but he too was well experienced in dealing with such types of people. Instead of silently moving his car from the middle of the way, the man got out of his car. It was like he was in no mood for moving from there. Colin soon understood that this person was not even in enough senses to know what actually Colin was saying. Anyway, he got to work that day, and this person was becoming a big-time obstacle. Colin decided to call one of his coworkers to help him in dealing with this strange person. But before anyone could get to the main place where this was all going on, Colin noticed that the back door of the white Honda Accord was left open. After seeing the man's condition, it was nothing surprising that he might have forgotten to close the door. What lied inside the car's back seat was going to be shocking for Colin. The weird person was Raymond Randy Turtle Gutierrez, a 43-year-old homeless man. He was known by the locals as an annoying man everyone preferred to remain a distance from. What nobody knew was that this time Raymond got to his feet in the wrong shoes that brought an innocent life in danger. Raymond, a notorious man, was into thefts whenever he got a chance. So far he was never caught, and this somewhere increased his confidence that he can get a hold of something big this time and still manage to go unidentified. What was he up to that fine day was worse than anything he'd done before. Yes, Colin was unaware of Raymond's intentions and what he was up to, but he could sense the vibes of danger coming from this man he never saw before. Things got a bit more strange when Raymond started arguing with Colin for no actual reason. He was asking Colin to mind his own business when in reality he himself was blocking the way. Before things could have slipped out of their hands, Colin's coworker called earlier arrived to control the situation, but it was already starting to become worse. Raymond was not ready to move his car. Rather, he was threatening Colin when there was nothing wrong done on his part. Such people can frustrate anyone, but Colin stayed calm. Colin wanted to know what was the matter with this guy, unaware of what still remained unnoticed in the back of his car. It was then that in the midst of all the arguments, Colin heard a sound, and it was coming from the back seat of that car that was standing in the middle of the entrance. This sound was coming from the car suddenly distracted Colin, and he understood that this situation was much more than he ever could have guessed. What was it? Was this man Raymond trying to hide something he shouldn't have done? Now, in less than a moment, Colin stopped caring for his own entry into the construction firm and became curious about the sound he just heard. Raymond noticed that Colin was going to see what he shouldn't see at any cost, but he couldn't stop Colin from taking a look inside. Colin couldn't believe what he saw inside the car. He recalled the back door of the car was cracked open and I saw a baby. Right away I thought, that makes no sense. What was a baby doing there? That too with a person who seemed like he might pass out at any time? Did this baby belong to him, or was it someone else's? There were so many questions in Colin's mind, but then he couldn't say anything for sure as the baby seemed very calm, as if Raymond was known. But it wasn't what it looked like in the very first instance. Even Raymond became conscious knowing that Colin had seen the baby. He immediately sat inside the car to move from the place. As Raymond was starting the car, Colin took a few steps forward to close the back door of the baby's side. Still thinking about the baby, he went back in his car to get to work. His fears about the baby were somewhere going to be proved right. The baby was well taken care of, and this guy was dirty, skinny, and jittery. I thought, there's no way this baby belongs to this man, says Colin. His concern was right, but he didn't know about it. This baby didn't belong to Raymond. He didn't even know the little one's name or anything about his family at all. Colin couldn't stop thinking about his own daughter. The thought scared him that what if this baby's life was in danger? He knew if he neglects it now and something happens to the baby later on, he'll never be able to forgive himself. What Colin didn't know was that before he reached the site that morning, cops instructed the California Highway Patrol to issue an Amber Alert. They did it to warn the authorities about a baby who was kidnapped the same day. As Colin, who just saw the baby, wasn't aware of this alert, he didn't take any action. The baby's life was somewhere between life and death. The cops were in search of a Honda Accord with a license plate from California. It was the same car that Raymond was driving. Was this a case of intentional kidnapping? No, what went on that morning brought a little one's life into the hands of a homeless man who had no attachment towards the baby. This car was actually stolen from South San Jose in Soledad. The man was leaving from his home when he forgot to take his lunch with him, so he left the car unlocked outside his house. He hardly took 2 minutes in returning, but by the time he returned, the car was gone. Along with the car, his 8-month-old baby was gone too. The man saw the car taking off right in front of him. He ran but didn't make it. He rushed to call 911 and informed that the car was heading in the direction of North San Jose. That's when the cops updated the Amber Alert. Raymond was still nearby with the baby in the car. That's when a homeless woman named Mama Ramirez came running to Colin and said that she needed his help. Colin knew her as an RV was usually parked near his workplace. He remembered, "The lady tells me quietly, 'Help me save this baby.' She said, 'You have to save this baby. The guy tried to give it to me.'" Colin's gut feeling about all this thing was now proving to be right. He added, "I looked into the car and there's this beautiful, chunky baby looking at me. The baby was calm, clean, with a bottle on his chest. I thought, what's going on here? Mama Ramirez recalled that the man said to her, "Take this baby. I grabbed this car and there's a baby in it. I don't know what to do with babies." I asked him, "Is this your baby?" He said, "No, the person who gave me this car left the baby in there." He wasn't concerned in the slightest. He was spun out or something. As soon as Mama Ramirez told the whole incident to Colin, he immediately stopped his work and rushed towards the Honda Accord that was still parked outside their workplace. He didn't know how this guy would be reacting to this, but he couldn't leave the baby with that guy for even a single moment more. I took the baby and put him in my trailer. I said, "I'm calling 911. The guy didn't really seem to care. I think he realized he messed up. He was in for a stolen car and he stole a baby. He stole a child," told Colin in an interview later on. Once Colin said the number 911, the man grew anxious and tried to escape. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to go away far as the police got a hold of him. Raymond was caught and taken into police custody. While the man was in jail now, was the baby safe? The homeless people knew who he was. They knew him and didn't like him and didn't want him around. When they saw him with a baby, it got their radar up, and their only concern was getting the baby away from him, stated Damon Wasson, Soledad's deputy police chief. The baby was taken to the hospital for a checkup, and his father was informed too. Luckily, the baby wasn't harmed at all. Everyone is saying that could have happened, and that's what scared me. I've been very emotional since it happened. When the cop said, "This is the Amber Alert baby," I thought, are you kidding me? I was able to help this little kid and his family, and that's a life highlight right there, said Colin. One similar incident took place in 2016 in the same area. Twice this happens in one city. That's twice too many. The few seconds you have by leaving your car running is not worth going through something like this. Your car's stolen, your baby's being kidnapped. This does not have to happen, said the deputy chief Wasson. Colin met the 8-month-old father who said that he cannot be enough grateful for saving his kid's life. The little one seems to develop a beautiful bond with Colin. He plays with Colin as if he's known him far before the incident took place. Colin, who loves kids, is overwhelmed to see the kid's connection with him. Colin Blevin was awarded the Missing Children Citizen Award. His work as a responsible citizen was admired during the evening. The acting Associate Attorney General Jesse Panuccio at the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. was also present at the award ceremony and couldn't leave without saying a few words of motivation for people who should learn from Colin. Raymond, on the other hand, serves his jail term. We can only hope that the man has learned his lesson. This incident brought two families together and gave Colin's daughter another reason to call her dad a super dad.